Okay, this is January 9th, 2019. Another installment of Alien Contact and the life of Robert Nelson. I'm Paul Power, and this is the 7th installment.
Yeah, number 7. All right, so where we left off, I was in the between early and mid 90s. In a very important year, 1991, I decided to try something, a way to fight back. I went out of body after I would be sent back from an abduction, while I was still paralyzed. I would go out of body, find the craft, and I would use telekinetic energy to try to destabilize its anti-gravitation field. It took a lot of concentration, but it worked. I did this 2 times. Each time the craft would wobble a little and straighten itself up, wobble a little more, straighten itself up, wobble and straighten up, and finally it would start wobbling to the point where it would start turning end over end back into the atmosphere and burn up. The first one I made a mistake of accompanying it because I wanted to see it burn. I wanted to see it fry. And I know that doesn't sound very Christ-like, and I don't give a damn. And I remember seeing the flames around my soul as I was watching this craft tumbling and burning. Next time I kept distance. Let's see, that craft actually burned up arcing over Florida as it burned up in the atmosphere. The next day I went to get a movie from it was a Turtles music shop, but they also sold movies and rented movies. And the manager, who knew me, was a friend of mine, said, "Did something funny happen last night?" And I said, "What do you mean funny? How do you mean funny?" He said, "You know what I mean." And I said, "Yeah, but I thought you didn't want to hear about this kind of stuff." He said, "Bob, what happened?" I told him that I had caused a gray ET craft to burn up in the atmosphere over Florida. He said, "Yeah, my girlfriend and I were at a concert in Tampa. We saw the thing frying in the sky as it came over. It was burning up, different color than any meteorite." And then he said, "You know, I don't like what you're becoming." And I said, "You know, I don't like what I'm becoming either. And I wish to God in heaven it wasn't necessary for me to do this, but I don't know what else to do." I said, "My choices are either stand up for myself and for everyone else, or bend over and pick up the soap and spread butt." He got quiet. He and I stopped hanging out as friends pretty much after that. The abductions got worse. The ETs apparently either didn't give a damn or didn't get the message, whatever. I got treated worse. A good week was when I was abducted once instead of 2 or 3 times. You gotta understand, this is kind of rough on me right now. I was still, excuse me, I was still working with teaching in different locations, teaching adults in 1991 into part of 92, I was teaching mentally ill adult students in a location in Winter Haven, Florida. I loved it. Very fulfilling. In 1994, I met a woman who was a school nurse. She worked with microcephalic children in the school system. She had also, according to what she told me, worked with secret government for quite some time before that. She said that when I was a little child, she had actually seen my name on a list of abductees that they handed the government. The ETs made a deal with the government. Actually, the government made a deal with the devil. They made a deal with the ETs apparently in 1952, allowing the ETs to abduct a small number, quote marks, of individuals, as long as the government had a list of who was being abducted and the abductees had no memory of the event and were not harmed. Well, being abducted is harm in and of itself. You know, a kidnapper will give you a choice. Come with me or I splatter your brains on the wall. I mean, it's a lousy choice, true. But with the ETs, you don't have any choice. They just take. They take you and they take what they want from you. I want to make it clear here that not all ETs are evil or bad. A lot of them, most of them, are quite beneficent. But you see, our government didn't want to do business with them. They were asking us to give up our nuclear weapons because they were afraid we were going to destroy the planet. So we made deals with the gray ETs who promised technology that we could weaponize and that we could market. Whoopee! At the expense of letting a small number of our people be abducted. Now, I can't totally blame the government because they couldn't have stopped the ETs at the time anyway. We didn't have the ability, the technology back then to do so. We built it up later, pretty much now in a secret way that you won't hear from NASA about. We have the technology to match ET technology. We not only can take ET home, if need be, we can send them home in a pine box. Sorry, that's putting a smile on my face, but it is. Anyway,
Well, some ETs.
Some ETs. So what the government got for their deal was little tiny tidbits of technology, but since we humans are so clever, as we darn sure are, thank God, we've been able to build up a technology that rivals ET's technology.
Well,
to some degree. Put it that way.
again, we got it from making deals with the devil.
That's right. And the government found out that, guess what? Not a small number of people are being abducted, a hell of a lot more than they don't even know are being abducted. It is theorized now it could be, in this country alone, it could be hundreds of thousands or even well over a million.
Millions.
Millions
At this point, yeah.
of people who are abductees. Now, there is a difference between abductee and contactee. A contactee is someone who is willing to be picked up and they have communication back and forth with the ETs and a good relationship with them. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Abductees are taken without any consideration of their will for it or against it. And little to no contact, and a lot is stolen and taken from them. I don't like having blood taken by a doctor here on Earth. I don't like needles. I hate needles. And semen? Hey, that's mine too. You know, a certain act needs to take place with someone I really care about and who cares about me. But with the ETs, They have devices they can get you to ejaculate whether you want to or not. You don't have any say in it. They even showed me, I'm going to say beakers, because, and it's not accurate, I don't know what else. Think of really large lava-like jars. Something similar to that. The green fluid with some minutia and some fetuses in them to be developed later on. And they told me part of those fetuses was from my genetics. I tried to reach up to smash one of those jars if I could. And they had eye contact with me, and the next thing was, life is not good, but it's okay anyway. That nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. And then I was sent back. From 1994 onward, I began sending, actually I take it back, from 1992 onward, I began sending constant, 24-hour day, round the clock, telepathic messages from, I say, like the back of my mind, so I didn't have to put, concentrated effort on it. Constantly sending messages to the Greys: if you don't stop this, I'll find a way to wipe you out as a race. I will make Hitler look like a saint. Study human history. Hitler was no damn saint. But when I'm through with you guys, you're going to think he was. I'm protecting not only me, but everyone else. Well, I kept trying to figure a way to stop them. I couldn't come up with it. There was a friend I knew who lived in Davenport, Florida. He was a hypnotist. He came from southern Georgia and had a very heavy southern accent. Imagine being hypnotized. Now we are going to count down from 10 to 1, and you're going to be feeling sleepier and sleepier, and then, this very heavy southern accent. Smart guy. Brilliant guy. Renaissance man, really. A millionaire, you would never have known it. He had money tied up in land development in different states. Built his own house he lived in. Also a damn good photographer. Well, I went to him a number of times for hypnosis sessions, not hypnotherapy, hypnosis sessions, to help me remember more of what happened during my abduction, so that I could find out if there was anything there that I could use as a wedge over the ETs, a way to fight back for real, to really stop them. The guy had interesting classes that he had just about every week. He would have speakers come in to teach different classes in metaphysics or psychic phenomena or healthy ways of living and meditation and classes on UFOs and ETs, which he was very interested in. This one time I took this school nurse with me. She wanted to see what one of the hypnosis sessions would be like, because maybe she would want to go to one. At the beginning of the hypnosis session, Michael came through, interrupting it. The Archangel Michael. And shortly after he started coming through with some messages, Giles, anyway, that's his name. The hypnotist said in his thick accent, "Michael, can you give us some proof that you are who you say you are? You know, in the Bible it says to test the spirits." And Michael said certainly I'll give you proof, and what you said is true and right, and you should test the spirits and be very careful. At that point, he said, here, try to take the pulse. Well, Giles didn't know how to find a pulse. The school nurse did. She came over and there was no pulse in my arm at all. She then says, well, there has to be at least a faint pulse in your carotid artery. There'll always be a pulse there. She tried that and there was no pulse there either. At that point, she hopped, skipped, jumped backwards to the couch she'd been sitting on, turned sideways, covered her mouth. Her eyes were real big and she's looking at the wall to the side. Giles says, well, if he don't got no pulse, what does that mean about his blood pressure? And she yelled from across the room, he doesn't have it. Then Giles says, well, Michael, I don't understand. What does this mean? Michael then said, you asked for proof. I've given you proof. He said, my son, he refers to me as his son. My son, by your standards, is quite dead. He said, but he lives in my mind because I hold him alive. He said, humans seem to think that the quality of life is held within the beats of a pulse, and he said, and you are wrong. He said, my son exists now between the beats of a pulse. Timelessness. Then he said, when this session is over, you may take the pulse again, and when I leave and I return my son to you, then his pulse will be reinstated. Michael then explained, I represent the power of life beyond what seems to be death. And he said, and I represent heaven's beneficence and generosity. The session went for an hour and 20 minutes. Actually, from the way I can understand it, between an hour and 15 minutes and an hour and 20 minutes. When it ended, Giles first asked before Michael left, would next time can you give us some proof that doesn't include your son's body? And he said, okay. Michael said, okay. As he left, the school nurse came back and there was no pulse. And then as I started coming back in, she said, well, now there's an irregular pulse, not human. And then she said, now it's becoming human. It's a standard pulse. I opened my eyes and started griping because my eyes were dilated, like I'd been to the eye doctor. At that point, her first name, the nurse's first name was Lois. I've known a number of Loises in my life. She said, what do you know, or she asked me, what do you know about a corpse? And I thought she was kidding, and I laughed, and I quoted Dr. McCoy from Star Trek, the original Star Trek series. And I said, it's dead, Jim. And she didn't laugh, and she said, no, seriously, what do you know about a corpse? And I said, dead body? Then she said, in medicine, there are 3 criterion for determining clinical death, and you met all 3. She said, there was no pulse, not even in your carotid artery, and there would have had to have been at least a faint one. She said, your skin was cold because there was no blood being pumped around to warm it. And she said, your eyes are dilated. She said, Bob, I didn't expect this. You were dead, clinically dead, for an hour and 20 minutes. And now you're back alive again. And there doesn't seem to be any kind of damage. And when Michael was coming through you, he was talking and moving like there was no problem in a dead body. She said, I don't know what to do now. I said, yeah, I saw you hop, skip, jump back to the couch and sit down, turn sideways. She said, you couldn't have seen that, your eyes were closed shut. And I said, I saw you because Michael saw it through my closed eyes. And she comes out with, oh, like that. I feel kind of sorry for her. I wasn't expecting any of that either. I really wasn't. A couple months later, actually I think it was about a month later, I did another session. There were camcorders, tape recorders, wires all over the damn floor. I think there was like 25 people or more in the room at the time. Again, over at this hypnotist's place. And at the beginning of the session with Michael, people were pointing at the ceiling. I couldn't lift my head to find out what was going on. You see, when Michael channels through me, I'm aware of everything that he's aware of, because he says that's the way heaven wants it. Everything's open. Excuse me. But I'm not in charge of my body. So if something's happening somewhere and somebody's pointing at something, I can't turn my head to see what it is. Unless Michael wants to look. And he didn't. During the session, at one point Michael asked for enough glasses for water for everyone at the meeting and a pitcher full of water to, fill them. And someone went and brought, one of the attendants people attending the meeting went and got in the water and brought it back on a platter. Michael blessed the water in the pitcher that it was in. The pitcher was known to be faulty. It had a bad spout on it. It would drip water all over the place. Here he's pouring water, not a drop being spilled in these glasses,